A hooded man walks away down a dark alley. Two guys sit on the steps behind him. One spits to provoke him, but it lands near the foot of the guy sitting beside him. The guy freaks out and curses, while the hooded man keeps walking without looking back. This place was the studio district, which was loud and filthy day in and out. And tucked away was this hooded man's tiny 180-square-foot rooftop home. He was exasperated to have ramen again for dinner. His name is Bong Joo-hyuk, 25 years old, unemployed and currently juggling 3 part-time jobs in the convenience store, barbecue joint, and day labor. And this boy right here is our main character. Even working like a dog, he could never save money, and the reason was simple. It was due to debt. A debt he had to pay off no matter how miserably he has to do it. He had no special skills. Simply, he's just a working body, thus, there's no bright future waiting for him. He was thinking of how his mediocre bottom-feeder life when suddenly a screen appeared in front of him and displayed that he had awakened. He freezes mid-bite, noodles hanging from his mouth. His eyes widen in shock, sweat running down his face. The hot sensation registered to him, and he drops his noodles, splashing them everywhere, and yells that he was scared out of his mind. He was confused. Awakening was considered a blessing. It was a chance to grab a jackpot and completely turn one's life around. It was even better luck than winning the lottery. But the thing was, he could only enjoy that if he's actually alive. Entering a tower was insanely dangerous. He could get torn apart by a monster, die freezing or burning in extreme climates, or from poisoning. There's also the possibility of falling into a trap and getting crushed to death, and so on. Even when he sees injustice, he generally turns a blind eye. He avoids dangerous situations at all costs to the point that he never walks under construction sites. He considers himself a bottom feeder and a nobody, and he lived that way for 25 years. And now he was being told that he had awakened, naturally. He would doubt this. He even thought that he just dozed off because he's tired. He called the status window. And it actually appeared. It showed that he's affiliated with Black Tower, Korea, and he's at level 1 with the trait summon, and he could summon 1 at the moment. His trait skills were targeted summon, random summon, and dismiss. And his common skill was to enter the tower once daily, and his tower inventory. Seeing that it's all there, he started to believe that it was real. Awakened were granted an ability known as trait. The types range from swordsmanship, spearmanship, shield arts, archery, and martial arts. There's even gigantification, heavy swing, summoning, healing, and many others. Among them, summoning involves spirits, phantom beasts, golems, demonic beasts, and so on. It was generally known as the ability to command specific types of summoned creatures. It made him curious on what kind of summoner he would be. Now that he awakened, he thought of casting a skill with some flair. Our boy tried to look cool and shouted, "Summon!" Nothing happened, so he embarrassingly tried random summon. But there was nothing. He remembered that it doesn't work outside. A player's ability, including skills, were only valid inside the tower and cannot be manifested in the outside world. Aside from checking the system status window, a player was no different from an ordinary civilian while outside the tower. Anyone with an internet connection knew that. He felt like an idiot. So now, he firmly believed that there was no way a skill would actually activate outside a tower. Unexpectedly, the screen displayed the initialization of random summon. His eyes widened when he saw that. Then, a glowing door suddenly appeared, and a man showed up. He looks completely freaked out. His eyes are wide, he's sweating a lot, and his mouth is open as he panics, not understanding why it's working. Moreover, the summon was a person. The man answered that he's completely human and gave him a salute. Joo-hyuk couldn't fathom that it was a successful summon, even though he wasn't in a tower. And it's not just a normal summon like a spirit or a golem, but a human. This human smelled something. He got excited when he saw a ramen and asked if he could take 1 bite. Joo-hyuk simply replied, "Sure." The red-haired man happily took the ramen. Behind him, Joo-hyuk stands frozen, staring in disbelief. He realizes that instead of something dangerous, he summons a shameless freeloader who only takes 1 bite. The noodles were being slurped vigorously. This red-haired man sweats buckets from the hotness level. Joo-hyuk thought of him as a spice wimp for thinking that mild udon was spicy. Moving on from that, he was still baffled on how a skill successfully activated outside the tower, and a human summon at that. He never heard of such a thing. He opened the status window, which showed him that he could summon humans and demi-humans on the range that they were R grade, rare, S R grade, super rare, SSR grade, special super rare, up to LSSR, legend special super rare. Aside from that, seamless communication was possible between the summoner and the summoned in all situations. It was news to him that there were rares. He felt like he's pulling for game characters or something. Then, the system informed him that he was bound by the 3 mandates. The 3 mandates of the summons are, first, the summons shall protect the summoner's life above all else. Second, the summons shall obey the summoner's commands absolutely. And third, in the event of a conflict between Mandate 1 and Mandate 2, Mandate 1 takes precedence. He likes the sound of absolute obedience. Then it made him curious on who exactly was the human that he had just summoned. The details flashed on the screen. It showed that the man was the Cruel Guild's insane assassin, and his name was John Cossack. Grade was SR, super rare, and he's a human assassin. His manifestation limit was 6 hours with no satisfaction rating, and 3 hours cooldown applied after dismissal. Aside from this, he's the Cruel Assassin Guild's biggest headache. Basically, he's a complete lunatic. However, his mission success rate was 99%. He even succeeded in assassinating a 5th Circle Dark Mage. The random information flowed to Juyok's head, causing him pain. Until he sensed something. He was falling from nothingness, and when he almost hit the ground, he saw an assassin coming. He braced himself, but the assassin just passed through him without even noticing him. Seeing the scene before him, he realized what it was. It was John's past. He skillfully beheaded some men, but he finds him strange, because he wrapped the heads with a red ribbon like a gift. It could be why he was called insane. John glanced behind. His end was the result of a single failure. He visited the room of the assassination's target, but this target was the Empire's strongest swordmaster. Before he could do anything, his body was already cut in half, and that was his final memory. At the present moment, John went behind Juyok and inquired what he was thinking about. That spooked Juyok. Juyok stumbles back in shock. He slips and flails his arms, shouting in surprise as he loses his balance. John didn't mean to scare him. He just wanted to ask if he had any orders for him. Juyok forced himself not to be scared, especially when it was stated clearly that the summoned show absolute obedience to the summoner's commands. He took a deep breath and ordered him to clear away the ramen pot and wipe the table too. John had no trouble following those orders. Juyok noticed that he was fast and hadn't had a single complaint. He realized that John had done everything he says. He clarified with him if absurd requests were out of the question. John simply replied that he obeys his summoner's words unconditionally. He tested that by making him bark for him. He wanted him to act like a dog. John stopped wiping the table, and it made Juyok scared that he had crossed the line. Especially when John was a powerhouse in his past life, so his pride must be immense. It made him worried that he would snap. But John barked happily, and it left him speechless. With a dumbfounded expression, he gave a thumbs up as he confirmed this absolute obedience. Suddenly, someone banged on his door. They knew he was inside and demanded that he open up. He had forgotten that it was the day the interest was due. Immediately, he told John to get up. Apparently, Juyok borrowed 10 million won. No bank would lend it to him, so out of desperation, he went to a loan shark. His father had slipped on ice and fractured his hip, and he needed the money for surgery, plus his little brother's college tuition. He had no other choice. He thought he could pay it back quickly, but the principal remains untouched, and he has already paid back over 5 million won just in interest. He knew it was a stupid move, but he had no other choice. Even if he were to go back, he would have made the same choice. They insist on seeing him to check if he's okay. He whipped his head towards John's direction. John already had his dagger out and was ready to sever the man's head in his command. But that wasn't Juyok's intention. Seeing the way he acts, he knew he'd cause a disaster. He told him to hide in the bathroom and not move a muscle there while keeping his mouth shut. John wanted to know if he's even allowed to breathe. He was relieved when Juyok replied yes. As soon as Juyok opened the front door, a hand was wrapped on his nape. This scary-looking man confirmed that he looked healthy and expressed that he was worried he might be sick or something when the interest payment didn't come through. Juyok didn't dare to move and simply apologized that he forgot. And then he informed him that he just sent the transfer. The man told him that if it was too tough, he shouldn't force himself, and suggested that if he's desperate, he could always carve out an organ and sell it. He added that life gets a whole lot easier with just one kidney. One of those thugs suggested that the punk has a little brother. The man agreed that the brother works too, especially that the younger they are, the better the price. Hearing that made Juyok's face turn grim. The man noticed his expression and commented that it looked like he was ready to take a swing at him. When he looked up, he had an awkward smile and told the man that he would never do that. That man warned him to watch himself unless he wanted to die without a soul ever knowing. And then he slammed the door and left. Ju-hyuk lets out a sigh of relief. John came out of the bathroom. He was impressed that he stayed perfectly hidden and quiet. John replied that it was because it was his command. Suddenly, Ju-hyuk felt tired. He had double shifts at work, an awakening, a human summon, and a visit from loan sharks to top it off. The debt made him consider climbing the tower, but he knew even if money was great, there was no way a coward like him could survive climbing the tower. John asked what he should do. He asked him if there was something he wanted to do, and if he wanted to return, he would dismiss the summon for him. John asked if he could watch some TV. Ju-hyuk had no idea how he knew about TV and ramen, but he's fine with it. He allowed him to do that, so John planned to watch a few episodes of a drama. John watched while he went to bed. Ju-hyuk thought that even though he was a summoned being, feeling someone's presence wasn't so bad. And he actually felt comforted, because he had worked himself to death. Sleep took over him. And the next day, his alarm rang at 8 a.m. He got up and saw John wasn't there, so he thought the summon was dismissed. He wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened since he had a memory of seeing the system window in his sleep. He got up to go prepare for work when the news was shown. While he was brushing his teeth, it was reported on the news that in Jongno-gu, Seoul, all the offices of the illegal loan shark firm, Smile Cash had encountered a gruesome murder. That caught his attention. And when he heard that 3 victims were beheaded, he dropped his toothbrush. On top of that, the victims' heads were found wrapped in red ribbons. He immediately thought of John Cossack. He turned pale when he realized he just summoned a total psychopath murderer. The shocking Smile Cash murder was major news at that time. Their bodies lay in their own pool of blood, and it was evident that one finger of a man was broken, and their heads were displayed like presents. When Ju-hyuk saw it, he got extremely anxious for being fucked. Looking at it again, he couldn't deny that it was made by John. While he was at work, he saw a head with a ribbon, and it was the loan shark's head being placed in the table to be calculated. It shocked him. All he could see now was this headless torso holding a head with a ribbon and the other heads on the shelves. It made him back away when he hit the shelves behind him. But, well, he was hallucinating. The customer asked if he's okay. He apologized and assisted her at once. After the shift, he realized that he couldn't work at his state. He decided to take a break from all his part-time jobs tomorrow. He sighed, as he wondered if people were dying because of him. At his home. He looked at John's details. At the catalog, he was branded as the Cruel Guild's crazy assassin, and his rank was super rare. Type is a human assassin. He has a manifestation limit of 6 hours, no satisfaction rating, and re-summon cooldown for 3 hours. Ji-hyuk knew that he wouldn't harm a summoner, but it was still scary for him. He summoned him, but the screen showed him something else. He was being requested to leave a satisfaction rating for John. He realized now what it was in the catalog. He told him to watch TV, but he went and committed murder that he didn't even order, so he wanted to give him 1 star for being so insolent. His annoyance to him was shown by him putting up a middle finger. That was what he wanted to give, but he knew he shouldn't be that heartless, so he gave him 3 stars instead. Since his mother's job was a rental water purifier coordinator, he knew very well how heartbreaking a low satisfaction rating is. After that, John was summoned. John greeted him with a smile and thanked him for the 3 stars. He promised to work harder. Looking at how innocent he looks, Ju-hyuk would even doubt if he had killed people. He straightforwardly asked him if he killed those men who went into his house. John proudly admitted that he took care of them last night. Ju-hyuk gasped when he confirmed that he's the culprit. He became terrified when he realized that the man in front of him was a murderer. Suddenly, his stomach churns and his heart races. He calmed himself down since he was absolutely sure that John wouldn't harm him. He asked him how he had done that when he wouldn't even know where their office was. John revealed that he planted a mark of pursuit when those bastards barged into his house. He wondered if that was something like a skill. He asked why he would go that far. John reasoned that they were a threat, so it was better to deal with them in advance. Ju-hyuk argued that he didn't even order him. Then John revealed that it was because of the summon's 3 laws Article 3. It stated that if Law 1 and 2 conflict, Law 1 is prioritized. Simply put, absolute obedience, however, if the summoner is in a dangerous situation, it could be ignored. Ju-hyuk asked if he would disobey if the summoner ordered him to kill him. John replied that he's correct. He told him that there was no actual threat, so he suggests that it was an arbitrary judgment. John agreed that Article 3 could be interpreted broadly. John's view was that those bastards were risk factors that would inevitably threaten the summoner's life someday, and this was a very reasonable judgment. Ju-hyuk argued that it was psycho-like. He realized what he just said and apologized. John was fine with it since he had heard such words often. It's not that Juhyok doesn't understand, but it could be an extremely dangerous situation. For example, he just walked on the street with John and accidentally bumped shoulders into someone looking like a thug, and that person would probably threaten him with words like, "Do you want to die? I'll pluck your eyes out," but doesn't actually mean to do it. But according to John's interpretation, they would end up with a ribbon on their head without their body. He was in such a predicament. John admits that he was wrong. He asked why he's suddenly kneeling. He explained to him that murder wasn't for his sake. Rather, it could turn into a difficult situation because of it. John reasoned that no one would know. He expects him not to do it again, but John couldn't guarantee that Juhyok made him promise that only do it when a knife was actually pointed at his throat. He didn't want John doing things like that based on speculations. John promised to judge the situation well. His answer was energetic. Since they're done with this conversation, he wants him to go back now. But John brought up something. He asked him if he's not climbing the tower, and Juhyok was caught off guard with this question. He knew that climbing the tower was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but he was scared, and it was too dangerous. He could get killed. He inquired if there was another summoner who summoned him just like he did. John replied that there was, and that person was a truly strong and brave person. Juhyok felt ashamed. He realized that someone uses their ability, awakening, to save the world. He admitted that he doesn't have the courage to risk his life. John was about to say something about him, and he cuts him off saying that he's a pathetic coward. But John said that he's the best summoner. He wasn't expecting that. John told him that the greatest virtue of a summoner was safety first, that being brave was poison. A brave summoner was dangerous, and they'll never know when he'll die. And when he died, they couldn't come out either. John assured him that he would do all the dirty work. He encouraged him to keep playing it safe and live to a ripe old age. That night, he slept fitfully while worrying about whether to climb the tower or not. He reasoned that tower climbing wasn't for him. He just wanted to live gratefully that the debt disappeared along with the debt collectors. He planned to do just safe and ordinary work, and thought that if he lives diligently like that, everything would get better. Suddenly, his phone rang. It was his father. He asked if he had been doing his rehab diligently. He was informed that they had to move to a bigger hospital, and his mother was getting fired. His father told him not to worry too much, and that he only called because there was no contract from him. He told him that he'll make time to visit next time, and they would eat together. His father told him not to overwork himself. The call eventually ended, and right after that, he put on the safety personnel full set. He told himself to just go to the first floor to peek for a moment and come out, and if it was dangerous, he could just exit immediately. The timing was right since he took the time off from all his part-time jobs. He was about to do the summoning. But he remembered that he doesn't necessarily have to insist on the crazy John. He thought of summoning something else, and maybe a legendary special super rare rank would pop up. But a random summon was unavailable. It was on cooldown, and he still has 28 days, 11 hours, 8 minutes, and 37 seconds remaining. He didn't know that there was a cooldown, and it was a whole month, so he had no choice but to summon John. He wondered if John knew that he tried to summon someone else. He couldn't look him in the eye. He informed John that they'll be entering the tower. John's initial reaction was that he's brave, but told him to cancel that and he shouldn't be brave. Juhyok assured him that he only plans to get a taste of it and get out. John told him to throw away those crude things, and instead, he would become his tool and hunting dog. He planned to do everything once inside the tower and assured Juhyok that he won't have to lift a finger. He was asked if he would like to enter the Korea Black Tower. The current accessible floor was the first floor. He confirmed their entry, and it was like they were falling. He screamed loudly while John hung on to his clothes. Everything suddenly shifts. Juhyok is pulled into a glowing digital space, his body falling as streams of light and numbers rush past him. Juhyok gasps in fear. His face goes pale, eyes squeeze shut, as he panics while being pulled through the glowing space. John grabs onto him, holding him tightly as they're pulled downward together, and they safely reach the ground. He saw that the first floor was completely a wasteland. Suddenly, he felt sick and vomited on the side. John asked if he's okay and told him that he'll get used to it soon. After that, John led the way, and they moved out of the safe zone. The system improved Juhyok's physical abilities according to level. Characteristics and combat skills had been available for use. Now, he knew what it felt like being a player. Even though he's level 1, he felt quite strong. The first floor mission was to defeat 5 tough-skinned, fatty grubs within 2 hours. Currently, they were at 0 out of 5, and if he could fail due to death or forfeiting the mission. John saw them up ahead. Juyak knew that the first floor was a place to test one's skills. The tough-skinned fatty grub was like a scarecrow. Concept. Its attack power was almost non-existent, but they say its skin was tough, so it's hard to kill easily. Other players managed to catch one in about 30 minutes at best, and now he's a player too. He was determined to try catching one. John asked if there was a need for him to suffer unnecessarily. Juyak approached one, and then he remembered he needed a weapon. He turned to borrow one from John, but the tough-skinned fatty grubs had risen, and it loomed over him. He turned pale, and he turned towards it. He asked John for help. John affirmed that it was a wise decision. John dashed towards it, and in just one hit, its head exploded. Then he charges towards the others while telling Juyak to stand back. He had his daggers in his hands and he looked thrilled. He threw those daggers and hit several tough-skinned fatty grubs simultaneously. Then he activated a blade explosion, and those that were stabbed all exploded. Juyak was amazed. It was an instant kill. With that, he succeeded in the first floor mission, and the reward was 100 magic stones. He also received an S++ clear rank for the first floor of the Black Tower, Korea. That gave him a platinum badge. He was in bliss when he realized it was too easy. He imagined getting rich soon, but he didn't know it yet. In some parts of Korea, people's screens showed up. Some were training when it happened. The others were in a club. That same notice popped up for every player in South Korea. Now he could challenge the second floor. He was transported out of Black Tower, Korea. Now he knew he was to be returned immediately after clearing the floor. It still made him sick. He checked the time and saw that it only took 5 minutes. John praised him for the good work. He answered that he didn't do anything but to stand still, and John affirmed that it was the right thing to do. Juyak heard that others barely finish when they're exhausted from beating grubs to death, but it was too simple. He checked the magic stone that he got. It was his first time seeing the real thing. Magic stone was an important resource indispensable in the current industry. The price has dropped a lot compared to the early days of the tower creation, so now it's about 50,000 won per 100 grams. Since 20 years had passed since Black Towers appeared in countries all over the world, most ordinary people know the general common sense about the towers, but a platinum badge was something he had never heard of. But regardless, he was pumped since he earned 50,000 won in just 3 minutes. John went to watch a drama. Juhyok ordered some food and invited John to eat. John smelled the food. He asked if it was spicy jokbal. Juhyok told him that he ordered regular jokbal because he said he can't eat spicy food, but he smelled something spicy. Juhyok realized that he had 0 tolerance for spicy food. John happily ate and thanked him for his grace. Juhyok wondered if that's his usual way of speaking. John asked what he meant, and he explained that he shortened the endings with seumda and imda. He explained that it was because he hung out with his previous summoner for a long time. Juhyok realized that it was something like an ex-boyfriend's influence. In their case, it would be ex-summoner's influence. John told him that if it was uncomfortable to hear, he would fix it. He replied that it was fun to keep hearing it. Juhyok had become certain that the tower wasn't dangerous at all, or rather, it was doable. The next morning, he posted an alpha male's daily routine. It was his schedule. He had a convenience store during the day, charcoal grill restaurant at night. He decided not to do the part-time labor job he was doing in between. Instead, he would be heading home and doing tower clearing with John. So, that day, he summoned John again, who had received another 5-star rating. Juhyok admits that if he could give 10 points, he would do it. John was glad that he was satisfied. He inquired if the satisfaction rating was important. John explained that the better the rating, the more benefits arise. For example, the manifestation time, rank increase, and needless to say, the chance to receive calls. They entered the second floor of the Black Tower. The second floor mission was to defeat 10 quick-witted fatty grubs. The time limit is 2 hours, and his current status was 0 out of 10. If he dies or forfeits, he fails. He realized that the second floor grubs were tricky because they move around everywhere, and they were faster than he thought. He asked what he should do on the second floor. John told him that there won't even be time for that, because it will be done in 3 minutes. He told him that he'd finish quickly and escort him home. Juhyok suggested that they eat chicken and have some beer too when they got back. John thanked him for that, and then he went to cut those quick-witted fatty grubs. Juhyok thinks it was insane. He finished the second floor mission and leveled up. The reward was a 200 grams magic stone. He was notified that he had achieved an S++ clear rank for the second floor of the Black Tower in Korea. He was awarded with a platinum badge. Receiving S++ again made him wonder if it was allowed to be that easy. It was just too fast, and he can even go in and out before going to his morning part-time job. The next day, they proceeded to do the third floor mission, which was to defeat 10 ice-cold fatty grubs. John told him that his landing had improved, and in a few minutes, they succeeded in the third floor mission. His reward was a 300 grams magic stone, and again, he achieved an S++ clear rank for the third floor of the Black Tower, Korea. He was awarded with another platinum badge, and then the same success happened on the fourth floor. It was also duplicated on the fifth floor. He'd collected 5 S++ rank platinum badges, and that entitles him for a special perk. The special perk was an awakening trait enhancement. Due to the special perk effect, the number of simultaneous summons increases to 2. The status screen showed Juyak was now at level 6, and he could simultaneously summon 2. His catalog was empty. His trait skills were designated Summon, Random Summon, and Summon Release. His general skills were Tower Entry once a day, and Tower Exclusive Inventory. He doesn't have any combat skills. It means that he could keep one more person with him, when John alone was already streamrolling everything. He realized that an S++ clear reward was insanely good. It could turn into a long-term battle going forward, and he would be way safer. He has 20 days left to use Random Summon again. He decided to hold out until then. Then after 20 days, all 3 of them could go together. While he enjoys the free ride, those 2 could keep breaking through, and tomorrow was another climb to the 6th floor. The next day, at Hanamdong, Seoul, Republic of Korea Awakener Management Administration. It looked like the 2 men on the couch were waiting for something. A man was wondering if it would appear in the morning or evening or maybe late at night. The woman in the suit approached him and asked if he was waiting for the announcement. He was startled. He turned red and told her to stop reading people like that. This man is Jeon Gwang-il, an Awakener Management Administration team leader, and the woman is Lee Min-ae, an Awakener Management Administration Deputy Director. He asked if a new announcement was up. She replied yes and shared that it was the Black Tower, Korea, 6th floor S++ rank clear. The Black Tower's global announcements have been ringing repeatedly lately, and every single one contains news of an S++ rank clear. Gwang-il could tell that it's definitely one person. Floors 1 to 5 were cleared in order. So he thought that it was without a doubt the owner of unprecedented, overwhelming talent. And if every floor were cleared in S++ rank... His thought was cut off when someone slammed the table. It was Park Gyeong-soo, director of the Awakener Management Administration. He said that the highest in Korea was rank A. They didn't even know higher ranks existed, or that an S++ clear triggered a global announcement. In that day's international society, player naturalization was quite common. There were even secret abductions happening behind the scenes. And so before another country snatches them away, they had to find the player immediately. He ordered them to keep close watch on every newly registered player. 2 days later, Juyok's goal was the 8th floor. He was glad to clear 1 floor a day without any trouble. Up to the 10th floor, it's basically the beginner zone, so everything was going smoothly. The floor was a swamp, and their mission was to defeat 10 red thorn frog warriors. The frog warrior attacked them. John took out his dagger, and in no time, he slashed those warriors continuously. The system notified Juyok of his completion of the 8th floor mission. His reward was an 800-gram magic stone and 5 tower exclusive healing potion. He had achieved an S++ rank on the Black Tower, Korea 8th floor. Platinum badge had also been awarded. John affirmed him with his great work, but he didn't even do anything every day. John told him that just entering the tower was the hardest part. He told him that thanks to him, they were able to climb easily. John reminded him not to let his guard down, since after the late 10th floors, it won't be so easy. It was another 3 minutes clear, so he thought of giving him a present. He gave him allowance and told him to go out, have fun, and eat something too, since he still has plenty of manifestation time left. But he reminded him not to cause any trouble. But John refused him, and it left him baffled. John explained that he couldn't leave his side, so he'll just watch TV at home. He realized that absolute obedience applies to stuff like that too. He suggested we order some chicken instead, and that made John excited. John made the call and ordered something good. Definitely, it wasn't spicy. While he's doing that, Juyok decides to check the rewards. A new reward as a tower exclusive healing potion. He set it aside for John. He placed the stones on his table and wondered what he should do with it. He already had 3.6 kilograms in his inventory. If he sells them, it's about 1.8 million won. He deemed it was time to think about cashing out. Eventually, day 10 of climbing the Black Tower arrived. It meant that they were approaching the 10th floor. Juhyuk just got home from his part-time job. While changing clothes, he pondered on how at first he thought of just dipping his toes into the tower, but he had been climbing one floor a day without missing a beat. Yesterday's 9th floor, the jungle man eating corpse flower, was easy too. He expected to clear the missions given, but the S++ clear rewards were such a bonus. He felt so reassured to the point that he had forgotten that John was a crazy assassin who killed 3 people. He summoned him. He gave him 5 points again. And due to continued accumulation of top ratings, John's manifestation time increases by 1 hour. Seeing that, Juhyuk deemed that it was worth it giving the highest score. John made a huge heart using his arms and thanked him. Now he could support him for 1 more hour. They entered the Black Tower, Korea. Physical abilities have been enhanced to match his level and trait, and combat skills have been made available. At around the 10th floor, he could really feel it. He was pertaining to the recalibration of physical abilities inside the tower. He was overflowing with strength, and a mysterious mana stirring in his lower abdomen. It led him to think that he had become an untamable wild horse now. Seeing himself that way, he confidently told John that he would help out too. John doesn't want him to. If he would have even just a scratch, John would smash his head into the ground. But he insists since he's already a wild horse. John tries to convince him by saying that his encouragement and praise were more than enough. He kept saying that he wanted to fight together, but when he turned his head, he saw a huge eye. It was a large insect. He got frightened. It made him wonder how other players even kill it. He uttered that sending 2 people out to kill a mere insect does hurt a human pride. John had no idea what he's suddenly saying, and clarified that there was nothing about pride damaging about it, but he argued that it hurts his pride a lot, seeing how scary that 10th floor boss was. He let John do the fighting. The large praying mantis attacked John. John jumped and ran along its body. He looked serious, and with his swift movements, he started slashing its body into pieces. Just like that, they had successfully completed the mission on the 10th floor. The reward was 1 kilogram of magic stones. Again, he achieved an S++ rank clear and got awarded with a platinum badge. John approached him and told him that the mission was complete. It gained them access to the 11th floor. They got transported out of the Black Tower. Now that he received 1 kilogram of magic stones, he now has a total of 5.5 kilograms. And since he already got a perk at 5 platinum badges, as expected, when he got 10, he received another perk. He looked forward to it. His perk was to copy 1 skill possessed by a summoned entity. The list were Blade Explosion, Shock Break, Vile Ambush, Poison Dagger, Shadow Step, Disruption, Stealth, Invisibility, Polymorph. John noticed him and suggested that it should be a Shadow Step without a doubt. At first he was confused about what he was talking about. Then John clarified that for the skill copy, he didn't have to think about it. He had to learn Shadow Step. He asked for the reason, and he told him that it was convenient for running away. If something happens to him, Juhyuk would be able to move fast and quietly. He felt offended that John suggested that he run away. He wondered if he looked like someone who would abandon everyone just to survive alone. He chose the Shadow Step. He agreed that fast footwork was genuinely seriously important in combat. He thought of the saying that footwork was the life of a fight. He wondered if it worked in the real world too, so he tested it outside his house. But it didn't. He complained about the inconsistency, because the summoning worked and yet the skill didn't. The next day, it was the 11th day of tower climbing. He called the Awakener Management Administration call center. He reported that he had awakened. He was celebrated and informed that a government staff would visit his home to give him support. Before he could tell his address, they already confirmed that they would arrive shortly. After this ordinary citizen contacted the Awakener administration to sell magic stones, he felt drained. It was the bravest decision of his 25-year life. Meanwhile, Awakener administration staff were outside. Director Lee rode the car with Gwang-il. Gwang-il asked about the Awakener who contacted them from Daegu yesterday. She replied that she doesn't think they were the owner of the S++ record. Gwang-il started to wonder if that person truly exists. She informed him that another awakening request came in and asked if he would come too. He replied yes, since they had to run themselves ragged while they could. If it was the person they were looking for, he planned to bring that person into their elite team, even if they have to pour out the best benefits the administration could offer. Concurrently, Juhyuk was cleaning his home. The Awakener Management Administration staff arrived as expected. He opened the door and invited them in. Team leader John Gwang-il introduced himself, and he introduced Deputy Director Lee Min-ae. He told her that she's a player too, so Ju-hyuk could freely ask her anything. Seeing that a woman came too, it made him more nervous. She got too close to him and it made him blush. And she knew at once that it was him. The S++. Ju-hyuk panics and screams, throwing his arms up in shock as he reacts without thinking. And then her statement dawned on him. It made him wonder if there was some Awakener identification method that he doesn't know about. He opted to deny it for now and act natural. But his actions betrayed him. He was stiff like a robot when he replied that he heard about it, but it wasn't him. His action was a textbook behavior of someone lying, and it didn't escape her eyes. Gwang-il smacked her while telling her not to probe people. She dodged his hand and replied that she would. He apologized for being rude to him. Ju-hyuk assumed that she was just testing him. A cute, chibi character pops up. It's a small black tower with wings, holding a star wand, and striking a playful pose, introducing itself as Tabi, the mascot of the Korea Black Tower. And it discussed the tower, pitch black and ominous in appearance, with an overwhelming size that can't even be compared to the tallest buildings on Earth. It appeared all over the world overnight 20 years ago. Every country revealed themselves and deployed soldiers and scientists, but no one could approach it. It was physically impossible to access, as if blocked by an invisible barrier. The question on what exactly it was had been answered when players appeared. The tower has a game-like structure where players climb it floor by floor. Players were just like ordinary people outside the tower, but inside the tower, they could wield powerful abilities and skills. They upgrade equipment using various rewards obtained from the tower and continue greatly to the global economy. There was a question on what happens if it wasn't climbed. Basically, if the new upper floors were not updated within a 6-month period, a countdown begins. And eventually the tower collapses. 3 years ago, that's how the city of Mumbai in India disappeared. It was known that each country has between 1 and 3 black towers, and Korea has 1. It was located deep in the mountains of Gangwon province. The number of players was estimated at 0.01% to 0.02% of the population, so that was around 5,000 to 10,000 people. There weren't that many. Still, Korea's Black Tower progression was going smoothly. With the 65th floor cleared, it was the second highest record after the United States' 66th floor. But there was nothing to worry, because their society has heroes called players. Just as humanity once pioneered new continents, humanity today was exploring and understanding the Black Tower. And the Awakened was the hope of the era. So they were encouraged to register as an official player, and they might become a hero too. That concludes the mandatory viewing material. Now Gwang-il would have to ask for some verifications. He asked if he was truly awakened. Ju-hyuk replied yes, and shared that he entered the tower and had done some clearing too. He showed them the magic stones. Then he was asked how many floors he had reached, and he replied 10. Gwang-il and Minna subtly looked at each other because that was the same floor as the S++ grade record. Now she started to suspect him. She asked him if he heard about the recent issue called the Global Notice. He tried to act natural as he answered that he had heard it too, and yet he doesn't know who it was. He added that he seemed like an amazing player. Given his stiff acting, Gwang-il told him that there was no need to be nervous, but they wondered if it was just excessive nervousness. They started to get suspicious. They proceeded in the contract terms. The government manages players by dividing them into 2 groups. The first group is the elite climbing team, and the second is the general climbing team. The general team plans and acts on their schedules. It was like being a freelancer. On the other hand, the elite team maintains a much closer relationship with the government's Awakener Management Administration. There were obligations for high floor raids, but they could receive various forms of support and benefits. One of them was the personal protection outside the tower, because the players were just ordinary people outside the tower. Also, if he belongs to the elite team, he would receive a basic annual salary. Ju-hyuk imagined what would happen had it been revealed that he's the S++ record holder. The media would flock at him and ask him about being a loner in Hanam-dong, an affluent neighborhood in the county. He would rather die than get that kind of attention. Gwang-il informs him that when he applies to the elite team, he would have to record his raid footage using the body cam that they provided. But to their surprise, Ju-hyuk didn't want to apply for the elite team. He's already satisfied with the general team. Gwang-il couldn't understand since the conditions were better. He answered that he didn't have talent, and that he's scared. Stopping at a reasonable floor and getting reasonable rewards was enough for him. Gwang-il encouraged him to think over it slowly, but he was firm that he had made a decision. Mine sighed, thinking that it was another miss this time too. There were plenty of people who stop at a certain point and farm safely, but this was the first time someone has said it bluntly during testing. That kind of coward makes him unqualified. Even if he applied for the elite team, he's the type that must never be accepted. The most important virtue of the elite team was the will to climb. They respected his decision. Then Gwang Il requested him to enter the tower because it was the final procedure they needed to confirm awakening. And since it would be a waste to lose his once-per-day entry, he suggested that he do some clearing while he's in there. Ju-hyuk could sense that he was subtly probing and trying to confirm whether he reached S++ until the end. He agreed to clear while he's there, but he warned them that he usually uses up the full-time limit, so it might take close to 2 hours. It was fine for those two since it was part of their job. Min-ae encouraged him to take his time and not feel pressured. He prepared himself. Before he goes, he tells them to watch TV and grab drinks from the fridge, because he might take a while. And then he left. After seeing him vanish, Gwang Il confirmed that he's truly awakened. He asked Min-ae what she thinks. She couldn't comment on his talent, but she noticed how extremely timid he was. His speech and actions were completely meek, so she expects him to give up on the 11th floor. He asked why. She had experienced the 11th floor and it tested a player's fear. He asked if it was the long-tailed tunnel centipede. It wasn't a difficult monster, but the player would have to kill 100 of them with that disgusting appearance. And she thinks someone fearful couldn't do that. She was certain that he would return to the safe zone and abandon the mission. Gwang Il knew that her predictions had been accurate so far. He planned to call the director already since it looked like another bust this time. Meanwhile, at the tower, Ju-hyuk summoned John. John thanked him for summoning him. The 11th floor mission was to defeat 100 long-tailed tunnel centipedes within the time limit of 3 hours. Current condition was 0 out of 100, and death or abandonment leads to failing the mission. Ju-hyuk felt disgusted with the centipede, and 100 of that too. John told him that he would take care of it quickly, like in 5 minutes. But Ju-hyuk wants him to hunt as slowly as possible, like for over an hour, so no S++ clear record was set. He shared that there were eyes watching outside, so he'll also dismiss the summon while inside the tower. John replied that he understood his intention. He knew that showing entry was enough, and yet he insisted on clearing too. He planned it so that his record would be a mess, and he'd be able to escape the S++ record holder net. Then John started killing centipedes, but he thought it was going too fast he instructed him to go slower. The hunting speed has slowed down significantly, and so he thought at that rate, it would be fine. A centipede suddenly rose from his feet, and that threw him off balance. They were swarming on him, so he had to use a skill to run away, but his body won't respond. John looked panicked when he saw him, so he rushed towards him and cleared the centipedes around him. He was annoyed that they dared to attack the summoner. He killed simultaneously. But Ju-hyuk realized he was going too fast. He told him to go slowly. He ordered him to go as slow as possible, but John refused because he prioritized his life. But Ju-hyuk didn't want him to try that hard. Suddenly, the system notified that the floor was cleared with rank S++, and a platinum badge was awarded. He now has access to the 12th floor. He had this deadpan, unimpressed expression while being transported outside the tower. 5 minutes had passed. Min-ae expected that it was about time he gave up and came out. But to their surprise, the notice appeared. It states that Black Tower, Korea, 11th floor, clear grade S++ has been achieved. And then Ju-hyuk showed up. Min-ae couldn't believe it. Gwang Il asked her what was wrong. She murmured that at the exact moment Ju-hyuk appeared, the S++ grade for the 11th floor popped up. But something's not right. Our boy looked serious. Out of nowhere, our boy Ju-hyuk muttered to himself that he didn't want to go that far. With his summon behind him, Ju-hyuk uttered, "You two will have to be silenced." He ordered John to bind those two immediately, but he beheaded them instead. It made Ju-hyuk scream out loud. He was terrified when he questioned him on who said to cut their heads off. The heads that were wrapped in ribbon called out to him, and he kept apologizing. But that was just his hallucination. In reality, they just sat in front of each other, and he started having cold sweat out of the blue. He realized that he unknowingly had a delusion. He composed himself. Gwang Il expressed again that their elite team absolutely needs a talent like him. He forces an awkward smile. He's sweating and clearly nervous, talking fast as he tries to explain things away and pretend everything is just a misunderstanding. He suggests that it just overlapped with another player clearing the 11th floor. Guang-il replied that the timing was too perfect for that. He insists that it was a coincidence and denies that it wasn't him. Guang-il asked him again if it wasn't really him, and he replied yes. Guang-il gave up and told him that since awakening has been confirmed, he'll prepare the contract. But to his surprise, he received an elite contract when he clearly asked for a general contract. Guang-il boasted that it's on a different dimension from the usual cases. So to speak, it was the only contract of its kind in the industry. Because it was an ultra-elite contract, it states an annual salary of 12 billion won plus real estate provided, VVIP protocol, and thorough security. On top of that, immunity privilege. At that point, the player was almost above the law. Juyak realized that it's practically nobility. It was shared to him that currently, it's a benefit only received by the #1 ranked player in Korea, Yu Cheol-min. He urged him to take a look to see that it includes every benefit the nation can offer. But Juyak replied no. He was firm that if it wasn't a general contract, he wouldn't be a player. Guang-il asked why he's refusing so vehemently. He replied that he hates receiving attention. If he gets attention, it would be burdensome. And if it's burdensome, it would be stressful. And it weighs on his heart. They realized that he's an extreme introvert. Also, even if climbing the tower was fun, he's just on the 11th floor and the future was just too uncertain. Guang-il realized that it would just be better to back off for now. He agreed to proceed with a general contract. Juyak knew that if others would see it, they would be frustrated and ask why they wouldn't just coolly stamp the elite contract and climb while receiving benefits. But an elite contract comes with responsibilities equal to what he receives. Even if the player would want to quit clearing floors, they can't because it's a team solely for climbing uncleared upper floors. And he doesn't want such a burden. He's fine as long as he can make a living more comfortably than before. At Seoul Hanamdong Awakening Management Bureau, Director Park received information different from the interim report. It was Guang-il who told him that Juyak was a timid player with no will to climb. He confirmed if such a person was an S++ rank achiever. Guang-il replied yes. The director couldn't comprehend what's happening. He admits that Juyak's personality itself was peculiar. He described him to be a timid type to a rare degree. Director Park asked if they had mistook the person, and Min-ae replied that it was impossible. The timing matched too perfectly. Then the director insists that being timid doesn't matter when it comes to exceptional talent. He wanted them to drag him into the elite team no matter what. Guang-il accepted the task and took it seriously. Meanwhile, Juyak was fuming because he already said no. He was scolding John. He was acting angry, but it was draining him. He warned him that if he did that one more time, there would be no mercy. They entered the 12th floor of the Black Tower, Korea. The mission was to defeat 20 ice-snow icicle spear weasels within the time limit of 3 hours. Juyak summoned John and reminded him to be absolutely slow. Since he saw John answer pleasantly, he had hoped that he could trust him this time. If he clears it normally from then on, he knew the Management Bureau would lose interest in him too. But the place was so cold. He came prepared, but it was colder than he thought. He tried to endure, but John saw his complexion. John got worried and asked if he's okay. He answered that it was bearable. Immediately, John promised to finish as soon as possible and escort him to a warm room. He was about to say he's fine, so he had to do it slowly, but John had already sped off. John told him that if he's not careful, he'll catch a cold, and a cold is an incurable disease, so he deemed that his life was in danger. With that in mind, he killed those monsters one after another, as fast and swift as he could. The system notified him that he earned a perk for collecting 15 platinum badges. The perk was an item called Energy Shield Kit, and it was sent to the tower inventory. Our MC immediately put the bracelet on. This Energy Shield Kit protects the user with a shield that absorbs damage. Once it absorbs a certain amount, it disappears, and it can only be used again after 5 hours. Its effectiveness scales with his level. A barrier slowly enveloped him. It was practically a full suit of armor, and the fact that it didn't have a tower-exclusive modifier meant he could use the shield in the real world, too. He wondered how much it would sell for. He estimated it could be worth around 2 to 3 billion. For a moment, he thought about selling it immediately and retiring from climbing the tower, but then he realized that better rewards might come if he climbed higher. Excited, he asked John if they could clear the 16th floor right away with an S++ rank. John said a clear was possible, but warned him to be cautious since he couldn't guarantee an S++ rank. Juyak didn't expect that answer. Now, he didn't know what to do. John, who was casually eating cookies, asked if something was wrong. Juyak started thinking about selling the bracelet instead. Meanwhile, Director Park grew worried because the global announcements for S++ clears had stopped for quite some time. Min-A replied that it had already been 15 days. Gwang-il added that they checked the records and found the player was currently stuck on the 15th floor. Director Park exploded in anger. He complained about how cruel it was for God to give such incredible talent to such a timid player. Gwang-il admitted that the difficulty rises sharply starting from the 16th floor, but he didn't believe Juhyok had given up. He suggested waiting a little longer. Just then, he received a message. It was from Juhyok. He said he was heading to the Awakener Management Administration to use the player shop. At that moment, Director Park finally realized something, that the player was farming the 15th floor to gather funds for new items. Gwang-il agreed that this seemed likely. After all, Juhyok had been completely unequipped when they visited his home to verify his awakening. Director Park realized how foolish he had been to criticize Juhyok without knowing the truth. He ordered that when Juhyok arrived, he should be allowed to buy any item he wanted at a giveaway price. He regretted his judgment from 15 days ago. Meanwhile, John turned pale and started sweating heavily after hearing Juhyok's request. Juhyok wanted John to stab him with his dagger. John felt like he was being tortured. He told Juhyok that if he was unhappy, he should just beat him to death instead. Juhyok explained that he only wanted to test whether the energy shield worked properly. It wasn't like he asked John to kill him. He couldn't understand why John was making such a big deal over a small poke. John pretended not to hear him, and Juhyok grew frustrated, so our MC did it himself. He grabbed John's arm and pointed the dagger at his own body. John was stunned. Juhyok started bleeding. He panicked when he realized he hadn't activated the shield. John immediately panicked too, and insisted they cut off his cursed arm. Fortunately, the healing effect kicked in. John begged him never to do something like that again. Juhyok agreed and told John to go finish his hunt. In the blink of an eye, John dashed off and slashed the creatures climbing the tall trees. Juhyok estimated that the hunt would be finished in at most 10 minutes, so he decided to practice his skills while waiting. He used Shadow Step and was speechless. He moved so fast that an afterimage was left behind. He was shocked by his speed. Now he finally understood how it felt. It also made sense why John wanted him to learn this skill first. He could move freely with it. It would be perfect for running away. Suddenly, something caught his attention. It was a goblin. It was trying to crawl away. He realized it had been hiding to avoid John, but now it suddenly charged at him. He activated his shield right away. Luckily, it turned on in time and stopped his arm from being bitten off. Creeped out, he kicked the goblin away. It flew straight toward John. John slashed it to death, thanks to the perfect pass. He was about to tease Juhyok about playing soccer, but then he froze. He realized Juhyok had been in danger and rushed over. He asked if Juhyok was okay. He checked his body while firing off questions, whether he fought the goblin, and if he was hurt anywhere. After inspecting him and even sniffing his armpits, he realized Juhyok was strangely fine. He scolded Juhyok for being reckless, reminding him again that he shouldn't act so boldly. Juhyok's ears rang from the lecture, so he simply said he would be more careful. After farming the 15th floor for 15 days, he had grown more comfortable using his skills. The magic stones he collected weighed a total of 22.5 kilograms and were worth about 11,250,000 won. Gwang-il returned his call, and Juhyok asked to visit the player shop. Gwang-il said they would send an escort to his home immediately. Juhyok said he could go by himself, but Gwang-il insisted it was a standard benefit for all contracted players. With that settled, Juhyok could only wait. A luxury car picked him up and drove him there. When he stepped out, Gwang-il greeted him. He welcomed Juhyok warmly to the administration, and Juhyok could tell he was being treated like a VIP. They went inside, and Juhyok's vein data was successfully registered. From then on, he could visit and use the shop anytime without calling ahead. Gwang-il offered to give him a tour, but Juhyok declined. He wanted to take his time and look around on his own. He headed to the player shop. The facility was luxurious, yet there wasn't a single customer in sight. He wondered if the items were simply too expensive. His first task was to sell the magic stones. The total came to 11,250,000 won, which would be deposited into his account within 3 days. He asked if he could use the funds right away in the shop, and permission was granted. Feeling exhausted, he decided to buy what he needed and head home immediately. Meanwhile, Director Park asked Gwang-il if Juhyok was able to shop without any problems. Gwang-il reported that Juhyok was browsing and that other players had been informed the shop was closed for the day. The director then asked about the pricing. Gwang-il explained that he instructed the staff to sell everything at a 90% discount. He believed that giving items away for free might burden someone as timid as Juhyok and cause him to refuse. Director Park said he handled it well. Back at home, Juhyok took out his adamant mace, which cost 2 million won. He also bought a pair of basilisk leather walkers for 3 million won. He had heard that standard item prices usually start at 20 to 30 million won at minimum. Considering that team leader Gwang-il personally came to see him, he knew he had received special treatment. He complained that it felt burdensome, but at the same time, he loved the walkers, leaving him with mixed feelings. The fact that he could rely on just a pair of walkers for his entire defense was all thanks to the energy shield. It was an all-in-one armor that replaced every other defensive gear slot, and he only had it because of the perk. He had promised himself not to get greedy when he started climbing the tower, but the perk was like a devil. It was slowly making him greedy. The next day, John was summoned. He saluted and asked if they would be farming the 15th floor again, but Juhyok answered that they were heading to the 16th floor. The summon cooldown had reset. They could now summon one more person. As the summoning began, Juhyok prayed with all his heart. A purple light started to take shape, but they weren't ready for how large it became. Its head pierced through the roof. Juhyok froze in terror. His eyes were wide and unfocused, sweat pouring down his face, his mouth hanging open as fear and shock hit him at once. In his mind, he wondered what kind of monster he had just summoned. At the same time, he mourned his security deposit. Cracks meant bye-bye money. The arms and the legs of the summoned began to appear. It was a massive man. Juhyok couldn't tell whether it was human or a monster. Annoyed, John kicked him and shouted for him to sit down. His foot landed right on the man's face. While hitting the Titan, John complained that of all people, it had to be this guy. He said the man was ruining his life and that he wanted him dead. Juhyok wondered if the two knew each other. The man grew irritated and said his hits didn't hurt, but rather, they tickled. John dared him to keep talking. He threatened to slit his throat and tie a pretty ribbon afterward. Juhyok stepped in. One broken ceiling was already enough, he demanded. John instantly obeyed. He told John to step aside so he could talk to their new companion. John said there was no point. That guy was famous in their world, infamous even, for being a complete idiot. He mocked him, saying he probably didn't even know the 3 laws. The man argued that he had memorized them well, so John told him to recite them. The man said Article 1 was absolute obedience to the summoner. Article 2 was about prioritizing understanding value. And for the last one, he couldn't remember Article 3 at all. That proved John's point. He suggested killing the man and making him unsummonable for 100 days. The poor man already looked like his head was overheating. Juhyok didn't even know such a punishment existed. A screen then appeared. The man was listed as the dim-witted savage meat shield of the Great Plans tribe. His name was unknown. His grade was rare. He was a human savage warrior, summonable for 10 hours, with a cooldown of 3 hours. At the moment, he had no satisfaction rating. Juhyok felt disappointed. An R rank was the lowest rank he could pull. He thought about waiting a month before trying to summon again. He then asked the man for his name, but he said he had forgotten it. When asked if he knew where he was, the man said no. He didn't know about the tower either. Our MC started to feel frustrated, so he decided to check the detailed specs instead. But suddenly, just like with John, he was pulled into the man's memories. He woke up in a vast green plain. Back then, the savage warrior was happily playing with butterflies. He was a warrior of the Great Plains tribe, with a pure soul who found true happiness simply by living in nature. But beneath that innocence, his physical strength was top tier. When giant plains wolves charged at him in anger, he thought they only wanted to play. Without meaning to, he crushed their bones. He was simply too dim-witted. A man eventually found him and confirmed that the rumors were true. He really was enormous. The man introduced himself as Arius and asked for his name, but the warrior had already forgotten it. In the end, the savage warrior was deceived by the false hero and sent into battle as a living shield against the super beast, the Hydra. With his tough body, he endured the Hydra's breath and fought back. He tore off its heads one by one, unaware that his own skin was melting away. His only thought was to protect his comrades. Eventually, the repeated acid attacks overwhelmed him, and he melted to death. His comrades surrounded him, mocking him until the end. Now Juhyok understood why he was called a meat shield. Tears fell as he realized how cruel it all was. He didn't care if the man was a little stupid. Juhyok reached out his hand and welcomed him. He invited him to climb the tower together. The man reached out as well, but his hand was too large. Juhyok could only shake one of his fingers. He then tried to give him a name, suggesting Yaman or Gobang. The man said he didn't know which to choose, so Juhyok told him to pick one himself. The giant chose Gobang. Juhyok promised Gobang that he would make him happy. He asked if Gobang trusted him. Gobang said he did, and that he would follow whatever Juhyok told him to do. Our MC then told John that the 3 of them were comrades now, and they had to make it work. John looked extremely unhappy, but deep down, John had already come up with a sinister plan. He told Juhyok that Gobang would make a reliable meat shield and that he would train him and turn him into a proper fighter. With that settled, Juhyok told them they would climb the 16th floor together. Gobang replied loudly, "Yes, sir!" John then stomped on Gobang's foot for answering late. Gobang quickly copied John's tone, which only annoyed him even more. Now the party consisted of a timid, average player, a deranged assassin, and a very dim-witted meat shield. On paper, it sounded like a disaster waiting to happen. They entered the Korea Black Tower 16th floor. Their physical stats were adjusted to match their current level, and traits and combat skills became available. Juhyok hoped to make the best of it. The mission on the 16th floor was to eliminate 30 Goblin scouts within 5 hours. John told Juhyok to activate his energy shield and warned him to be ready to use Shadow Step at a moment's notice. Those goblins fired poison needles, and there was no way to tell when an ambush would happen. A goblin targeted Juhyok. It fired a poison needle, but John caught it before it could hit him. They were under ambush. Juhyok dodged and hid behind a rock while John blocked the incoming needles. So many needles were fired that the rock Juhyok was hiding behind began to crack. By his estimate, there were more than 50 goblins. He ordered Gobang to move to the front and block them. Gobang became serious. His footsteps shook the ground. He leapt high into the air. John was confused when the goblins suddenly started running. A massive shadow towered over him, forcing him to look up. When Gobang slammed into the ground, the impact exploded outward, catching many goblins in the blast. Even John was thrown back. Juhyok saw it and thought that with that kind of weight and power, it wasn't even a fight. The remaining goblins fired more poison needles, but they only tickled Gobang. Following orders, he wiped them out. Juhyok couldn't believe Gobang was only ranked R. Based on combat ability alone, he looked closer to an SSR. Juhyok realized the low rank was probably due to his lack of intelligence. Afterward, they went home and ate fried chicken. Gobang loved it. Juhyok praised his performance and told him to eat as much as he wanted. John smacked him and told him to eat one piece at a time. Juhyok wondered if there was no get-along option between them. When John took a bite, his mouth burst into flames. He hadn't expected the chicken to be that spicy. Juhyok teased him, saying an assassin being weak to spice was pathetic. Gobang suddenly said that the summoner was a good person. Juhyok was completely caught off guard. The giant explained it was because Juhyok fed him kitchen, which helped him live. Juhyok blushed, clearly touched. He said it was nothing compared to what Gobang had done, and that he was the one relying on him. Once again, John hit Gobang and corrected him, saying it was chicken, not kitchen. Juhyok jumped at how hard the hit was. He scolded John for bullying someone who was eating so happily. John apologized and said Gobang just needed some education. Deep down, though, he was annoyed that Gobang was inhaling the chicken while they weren't looking. The next day, they entered the Korea Black Tower, 17th floor. Their physical stats adjusted to their new level, and their traits and combat skills became available once more. Now that Juhyok had reached level 17, he could feel his power surging. It was almost hard to control. His heart pounded, like a wild stallion inside him was waking up. He felt ready to jump into the fight. But John warned him that people usually start getting reckless around level 20, so he volunteered to take the front. Gobang also said he would protect him and told Juhyok to stay back and stay alive. Feeling small, Juhyok simply agreed. The mission on the 17th floor was to defeat 30 Goblin warriors. Watching walkthrough videos before hadn't prepared him for this. Seeing them in person was overwhelming. The Goblin battalion had at least 90 warriors, and for simple monsters, they were surprisingly skilled in strategy and tactics. The walkthrough he studied explained the usual approach. When the Goblin warrior unit appears, retreat to the safe zone first. Wait until the group splits into patrols of 3. To avoid drawing attention, lure and eliminate them 3 at a time, repeating the process until the mission is complete. This method takes a long time, but Juhyok didn't need to follow such a slow plan. He called out to Gobang and told him to move. Gobang let out a loud roar as power surged through his body. With Gobang on the team, Juhyok felt confident that even the 20th floor, and possibly higher, would be easy. He ordered Gobang to wipe them all out, and he looked forward to the perk he would earn next. After receiving the order, Gobang charged forward. The Goblin general gave an order, be in a defensive formation. They threw spears at him, but they barely scratched Gobang's sturdy body. He crashed into the formation, sending goblins flying. They slammed into the ground face first. Juhyok was amazed by how well Gobang performed. He knew that strategy and tactics only mattered when both sides were on similar levels. But comparing Gobang to the goblins was like throwing thousands of rental bikes at a K2 Black Panther tank. The system then notified him. An S++ clear had been achieved on the 17th floor of Korea's Black Tower. An S++ platinum badge was awarded. Our MC was impressed. John noticed his reaction and felt both surprised and a little disappointed. They They moved on to the 18th floor, where the mission was to eliminate Goblin assassins. Once again, Juhyok sent Gobang charging ahead. The Goblin assassins relied on stealth skills. They were completely confused when Gobang grabbed nearby trees and caught them without even realizing it. Gobang frowned, saying he couldn't see anything. Juhyok quickly realized this floor wouldn't be as easy as he thought. Gobang shouted at the goblins to come out. John's laughter echoed through the forest. He mocked Juhyok, saying he had suffered long enough watching that clueless meat shield's strategy, and now it was time to cleanse his eyes with a real one. The goblins' stealth couldn't keep up with him. He used Shadow Step. In an instant, he cut them down. The kill count kept rising. Our MC was impressed, was he? It was his plan all along, for the two to work together. John had been anxious ever since his role was reduced because of Gobang. Stirring their competitive spirit had been intentional, and it worked perfectly. He set things up so they would push themselves and gather more badges. He needed to keep boosting his abilities through perks, and he was already close to level 18. At last, it was time. Time to let the wild stallion loose. Before entering the 18th floor, he carefully reviewed all the strategy information. The Goblin Assassin's stealth skill was low level. If he focused, he could sense their movements. There was nothing to fear. He had practiced Shadow Step countless times while farming the 15th floor. He slipped behind a stealth Goblin Assassin, but at the last moment he twisted his ankle. He lost his balance, and accidentally stabbed the Goblin in the head. What a lucky bastard. That still counted toward the mission. He was relieved that it worked out just as he intended. But another Goblin slipped in behind him and attacked. Meanwhile, John steadily cut down goblins, pushing the count to 25 out of 30. He decapitated the next one. Now only 3 remained. Gobang charged in. He swung wildly in every direction. 3 goblins were caught in his attacks. He tried to help more, but John shouted at him, telling him he was only getting in the way. Then John realized that Juhyok was gone. Meanwhile, Juhyok activated his shield. He created some distance between himself and the goblins. A blow struck his head. It would have been fatal if not for the energy barrier. The goblins surrounded him. He took a combat stance. Maybe it was the adrenaline. Because the goblins' movement suddenly looked slow. It felt like the world itself had slowed down. He struck them down one by one. Afterward, the system notified him that he had achieved an S++ rank on the 18th floor of Korea's Black Tower. An S++ reward, a platinum badge, was granted. John immediately searched for him. When he found our MC, Juhyok proudly said he might have landed the final blow. John dropped to his knees, relieved to see him unharmed. Meanwhile, back at the administration, Min-A saw the global notice announcing the S++ clear of the 18th floor. Director Park was delighted. Gwang-il commented that Juhyok was unstoppable and had prepared thoroughly. If Director Park had his way, he would have announced immediately that the record holder of Korea's 18 consecutive S++ clears was right there. Gwang-il warned him not to say such things, even as a joke. Min-A added that revealing his identity would be dangerous. Director Park clarified that he was simply proud of him. Juhyok had become a special player, one who needed even more careful protection than elite teams. Soon, the news reported that a new wind was sweeping through the climb of Korea's Black Tower. After a 20-day pause, an unprecedented 18 consecutive S++ clears had occurred, rewriting the history of tower climbing. The mysterious player was estimated to be at level 19. It wasn't just the players. People across the entire nation were trying to uncover the identity of the S++ player. John turned off the TV and let out a deep sigh. While Juhyok felt uneasy, he told John to stop sighing and just say what was on his mind. John finally spoke. "It's too fast, sir." He meant the speed at which Juhyok was realizing his talent. Juhyok was confused. He didn't think he had any talent, so he assumed John wasn't talking about him at all. He brushed it off as a joke, but to John, it wasn't a joke. The shadow step Juhyok used at the end was flawless, so clean that even John would struggle to copy it. That was what made it dangerous. He told Juhyok he was being serious. He warned that once Juhyok started enjoying combat, his confidence would grow. And as confidence grew, so would the danger. If he became brave, things would get risky. John reminded him of their promise from the beginning: safety first, survival above all else. Juhyok agreed. He said he wouldn't do anything reckless and would only focus on one enemy at a time. John accepted that. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Deep down, he felt certain that one day their summoner would cause a serious accident. Thanks for watching, bros. If you enjoyed this update, make sure to drop a like and hit subscribe so you never miss the next chapter we upload here on Manhwa Updater. New episodes from the main Manhwa dealer channel will always land here every week, so stick around and stay updated. And hey, if If you want more fire stories, check out the latest upload on the main channel right after this. As always, stay cool, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.